following program is a SUTV student production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
Good evening, welcome to Sports Night. I'm Travis Mello, joined by Chris Makoviak, Kara Bodnar, and Matt Forney. As always, a lot of excitement this week in Salisbury athletics. I guess you can say last night, men's lacrosse defeated Wesley 28-4. So we're not going to talk about that much because there's not much to talk about. Instead, we're going to talk about their chances at the undefeated season because they're 12-0 right now. They have 6 regular season games left, and 3 of them against ranked teams. So what do you guys think? Do you think they can go 18-0 in the regular season?
Yes, without a doubt. They have the offense to it. The defense is there. The question is goaltending, I guess, would be the one suspect part. But Joshua Dean does have a 50% save percentage. So, I mean, even if you want to call that the Achilles heel, they're playing really great, and I look forward to watching them. The tough game is going to be York. York's 4 in the country, so that's going to be the one tough game, and it's on the road.
I would definitely agree with that. I think that they definitely can go undefeated for the rest of the season. Everything seems to be clicking right now. Everything's going well. I think exactly. York is definitely going to be their tough game. It's away. I mean, York is a great place to play at. The fields, the facilities, the fans, they really get into it. So I definitely think that will be tough, but I think that the boys can handle it.
Yeah, and if they do drop anything, it'll be just one game, and it'll be a close one down to the wire. It's not going to be anything we're going to see coming. I think they can do it, but as it goes further in the season and you think about that undefeated record, it's going to mount in their heads. But if there's a team that can do it, they can get it done.
York's goalie has a 63% save percentage, so it's going to make it tough on Salisbury. Look for that game to be low scoring, like below 10 goals for both teams.
Yeah, you mentioned the scoring, and 6 point. What was it? 6 point.
63%.
Yeah, 6.63% save percentage. Salisbury just has an offense. They have 200 goals this season in their 12 games. They are second in the NCAA in goals per game. They have Cirillo, who has 33 goals. Carson Kalama, 30 goals. Nathan Blondino, 27 goals. You just look at their offensive style. They just play such a beautiful offensive style.
And it's nice that you don't have to rely on one player. And I mentioned this when I called the 2 games against Roanoke and Southern Virginia, that you can't focus on just one player or 2 players because you got to worry about everybody else. And the one X factor that is going to be the key to this team going late in the season is going to be Burton. Burton leads the team in assists, 23 on the year. He's just their point guard. He distributes the ball well, looks for the open teammate, is completely unselfish. And he can dish to Cirillo and Kalama and Blondino, so look for those 3 to continue their hot starts to the season.
Yeah, and Cirillo and Blondino, they have the goals. They also have the assists. They're only 2 behind Burton, that 21 assists each. So just like Burton, they know who to pass it to and when. So no team that they've played a plethora of ranked teams. They played a great amount of amazing lacrosse programs this year. None of them have really been able to figure out how to stop these attackers between the 3 goal scorers and Burton with the assists. Do you think a team like York is going to be able to slow them down enough to get the victory?
I think it'll be a tough challenge, and we have to also remember that York lost to Lynchburg earlier in the year 9-7. And we beat Lynchburg by a great fourth quarter. And I think if it comes close, our defense is going to step up and shut them down. They have 5 fourth quarter shutouts this year, 4 against ranked teams. So I look, if it gets close, the defense is going to step up and be strong like they have been all year.
Yeah, and one thing we forgot to mention, Tufts lost last week, so Salisbury is the number 1 team in the country this week. One of only a few undefeated teams left. And if you look at their rest of the season, other than the 3 games against ranked opponents, so they play Marymount on the road, CNU on the road, who is in the other receiving votes, and then Frostburg State, York, Cabrini. I think they can do it. Did I say 18-0? I think it might be 17. I don't know. But anyway, now we're going to go over to women's lacrosse, who also played last night and just absolutely blew out their opponent. They are also looking outstanding. They're fourth in the country at 10-1. Do you think that, look at their remaining schedule, they also have 3 games left against ranked teams. What do you think their chances are of just getting to the NCAA tournament with that one loss?
I think they've solidified their spot. Granted, if they can win out these 3 games or even go 2-1, and then if they even don't win the CAC, they're going to receive an at-large bid. They're a top 10 team in the country. They have the resume to get in. They don't have a bad loss. So I think they're sitting comfortable. It's just they got to take it one game at a time. I
would definitely agree. If they take it one game at a time, and even if they don't win the CACs and they do drop one, they'll definitely get that at-large bid for sure.
Yeah, they'll be hosting, and especially with a resume at the end of the season like this, facing ranked opponents, it's great because it tests the team headed into these critical games, win and move on, and also just resume building to at the end. You win those games, you're going to be hosting in the playoffs.
And looking back at the schedule, if they do go on to win the national championship, you would have to consider that the Gettysburg home loss, which they lost at home, which doesn't happen often, but it could be the turning point of the season where you can look at that game and say that was the turning point that sparked them to go on the run. And with beating Franklin and Marshall at home just last week, the number 2 team in the country, you got to think this team is having really high confidence going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, when you look at their remaining schedule, they play Frostburg State, who's 4-5, Wesley, who's 2-8. Those should be 2 pretty easy wins. It's at CNU, at St. Mary's, and at TCNJ, 3 ranked teams. Christopher Newport 9-1, St. Mary's 11-1, TCNJ 7-1, who also last year they lost to at home, and it wasn't really a close game, to be honest. I think TCNJ is going to be the one test. They already proved that they can beat the ranked conference teams when they did that against York. So I don't think CNU and St. Mary's are going to be as big as an issue. But going on the road that final regular season game and playing the College of New Jersey is going to be their toughest test. And if they can get past them, or even a 1 or 2 goal loss, then I think they'll be in great position for the NCAA tournament to make a deep run.
And as long as they keep playing strong and Falcone is doing what she's been doing all year, I think this team is poised to make that deep run and might be playing in Philadelphia for the national championship come Memorial Day weekend.
And when you look at their offense, another team, they have 137 goals this year, 12.45 per game. Megan Wallenhorst with 17, and also she leads the team in points by a huge margin. She has 39 points, 22 assists. Gabby Neves, 21 goals. Adriana Maxwell, 15. Hannah Young, 16. Emma Wall, 14. They just have a lot of goal scorers, and it's the same thing as the men's team. If you can try and stop one, then you have 4 others to worry about, which is just something that not a lot of teams know how to stop.
Yeah, there's so many players that can step up in these big-time games. If they need a goal late on, if it's a close game like Matt talked about with the men's lacrosse against a TCNJ right here to end the season, it's one of these many girls could step up and get that goal for them with so many goal scorers.
Yeah, Emma Wall, like you mentioned, she just kind of breakout season this year. Had a couple of really good games, and now she is one of the team's top goal scorers in 4th or 5th place on the team. So just, like you mentioned, if one girl isn't having a good game, then you have 5 others behind you who are going to pick up your pace. And in my opinion, that's a formula for a national championship type team. What you guys think?
And this senior class has the possibility of walking out here with 3 rings on their fingers because they won their first 2 years back-to-back national championships, and then they lost in the first round last year. So I'm sure they want to walk out here with 3 of 4, which not a lot of athletes can say.
Yeah, when you look at last year, that was, their regular season wasn't the best in terms of Salisbury lacrosse, but that first round exit at home against Hamilton just kind of shook them up, and I'm sure that this year they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they want to prove that they're back to being a national championship team. So now, baseball. Your look on your face. They're 15-7, 7-3 in the CAC. Last night they played at Wesley and they lost 10-9. They scored 9 runs. They gave up 10. We'll get to their pitching in a little bit. Let's talk about their offense for right now. Here's just some numbers to look at. their 354 team batting average is 11th in the country in Division III. Their 448 on base percentage is 5th in the Division III, and their 532 slugging percentage is 5th in Division III. And they have 25 home runs, which is 3rd in Division III. If you look at those numbers, wouldn't you think that they would be one of the best teams in the country?
Yeah, you would, looking just stat-wise, you would think that they'd be a top 5 team with those numbers. Like, you would consider them, or would think that with that, and then their pitching would be somewhere around there as well, considering just looking at those stats. They would be close, if not undefeated, a 1 or 2 loss team, if not undefeated.
Yeah, with offensive numbers like that, all you need is average pitching. Pete Grasso, he's batting .447 himself with a .777 slugging percentage. Tom Labriola, .494, he has 35 RBIs. And Jake Dimitrchek, a .681 slugging percentage with 34 RBIs. They just crush the ball. But, now this is a big but, pitching. Connor Shockley has a 5.02 ERA. Connor Reeves has a 5.88. Jeff Oster has a 5.09. And as a team, they have a 6.63 ERA. And we were looking, before the show started, trying to find their rank. That ranks 310th in Division III out of not a lot more than that many teams. So, what do you think is... Do you think that they can get it together before they get really towards the end of the season and into the conference tournament time?
Oh, I know Mary Washington for this weekend Saturday is not ranked, but this doubleheader is going to be so important to seeing what this team is like headed forward. Mary Washington doing some research on them. Many of their pitchers between 2 and 4 ERA. It's not one of the top teams out there. They're not going to score as much as Salisbury, but if they can't get it done in a doubleheader, they should. As the number 12 team in the nation, they should sweep them. But honestly, I got to go with Mary Washington at this point. It's really tragic what the pitchers have been. If you look at the blind resume of Salisbury, not knowing they're Salisbury, this team is not ranked.
Yeah.
I got to say, overall.
I'm going to agree with you on that because when you look at Division III sports, it doesn't matter which one it is. Salisbury kind of has that pedigree. So I do think that they are getting a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, especially their baseball team's recent history. They've made 3 straight World Series appearances. Yep. So,
and like you said, that carries a little bit of weight. And like I agree with Chris, if you look at that on the resume, you would not consider them a ranked team. But once you reveal that name, it's like they've slid a couple spots, and they've slid about 10 spots in the rankings since the beginning of the season. Yes, Grant, we're about halfway through the season, but with that much, they're 15-7. They've lost 9 games each of the last 3 years. They're going to get They're going to have double-digit losses by the time the season's over if their pitching doesn't improve.
Yeah, for them to do anything really with the rest of their season, the pitching has to improve. I mean, their relievers, the ones that they choose to start, the young ones, they just need to, really. I mean, the offense is there, defensively they're there. The pitching just has to improve. It really breaks down to that after everything.
Yeah, earlier this week, Connor Shockley pitched a complete game 4-hitter against, I believe it was Washington College. And that, when you look at that, you're like, all right, so we finally got some good pitching. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the thing that turns their season around. And then they go into this game against Wesley, and that's really it. So that's all the time that we have tonight for Sports Night. For Chris Makoviak, Kara Bodnar, and Matt Forney, I'm Travis Nadella. Have a great night, everybody.